The part of the system that we haven't really focused on are the surveys and audits, which is, if you remember, the three key functions of CQC Pro.
Oh, we covered surveys and audits in part 2 last week, didn't we, Michael? I'm sure. We covered.
I
Yeah,
think
we definitely did, because you sent
sending
us
them, but not building them, and not the oversight
okay,
dashboard.
perfect.
So
okay,
we're going
amazing.
to
Let's go.
just show you the art of the possible
Deeper level.
yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
So I'll share my screen. And yeah, I think you're right. We did how to send and receive a survey, how to fill it in. So you have the survey audit menu.
Yeah.
Now we have a concept of internal and external. So an internal survey is one which belongs to a particular site. So in this case, I'm logged into a site. I can see the surveys that are created effectively by me, that I can send out to my heart's content. We also have a concept of external surveys where a head office in a multi-site scenario like a care home group can create a centralized version of the survey and then apply it to all their sites so that everybody gets the same version. So if we sell, say, to a five care home group, we would give them an oversight license for free. So they get what we call a directorate view, where you can see what's going on across all the homes in the group. In fact, I've got one set up now. I don't know if you guys have been set up with this as well. But we have, I think they were named after flowers, things like poppy and tulip and things. Additional sites that Ange set up last week to just demonstrate what it looks like from an oversight perspective. I hope that YouTube hasn't just
oh no.
It's all gone to sleep.
Mine is working.
Let me try a different browser. Yeah, I think it's a local issue. There's me boasting about my super fast broadband, and then
technology, eh?
Yeah, it's just gone to sleep. Let's try this one. This may not help because I'm just adding layer upon layer, aren't I? Oh, well, here we are. The original one's finally woken up. So in that scenario where you've got multiple sites, we can create a management site so you can review what's going on at all the individual sites in the group. So they can all be putting in their evidence, and you can be accessing, their evidence. You can also do this, which is quite nice, which is a peer review of the evidence on a local site. So they might have a quality team that's working with the local team. Sorry, Michael, yeah.
But I don't have the same view as you do. So I clicked on sites, went onto the new citation demo community services, and then I've got a completely different view from you.
So we need to then add access to this particular site. So I've got it, but you obviously don't have it. I thought you had been provided access to it, but it's not a problem. I'll make an action after this meeting to give you access to these sites and this overview as well.
Perfect.
So this is functionality we developed initially for the NHS, but it works really well for a care home group. So it just means if you have a group quality manager, that person in the group can review the evidence and make suggestions, and even come up with a alternative RAG rating compared with the self-assessment of the local site. So that process is only available through the directorate view, which is part of that overview site. So they only get these if they've got more than one site in the group. The first thing they do is lock the evidence. And the reason they lock it is that evidence that they are looking at may be subject to change. So they might be in the process of making comments against a particular standard or question, and the local site then changes it, and they're looking at a moving picture. So it's really difficult to work in that scenario. So by locking it, we're saying, I'm now going to make my comments against your evidence as of today. So you have, this is the reviewer reviewing the evidence and saying, I agree, well done, or not, as the case may be, or think about this. They can add their own documents. So they might have something that they've seen in the home that they want to bring their attention to, and the reviewer can make their own RAG rating. So you have a reviewer's RAG rating and a self-assessment RAG rating. So you either agree or you disagree, and so on. So it's a function that, when the review is done, automatically updates the local site with the review and all the comments. And then when they're creating their evidence, they can also see what the reviewer said, and they can take that into account when they work going forwards. So it's a really useful feature if you're talking to a care home group, because it just makes managing it a lot easier, and it sort of supports their quality management structure.
Great.
Is it that the same for the IQAPs? Because with IQAPs, you do the assessment first and then you do the self-assessment. Am I correct?
IQAPs has the same process, but it actually does it slightly differently. So with IQAPs, they are doing the review first, and then the self-assessment comes second. Whereas with this, the self-assessment first and then the review. So it's the other way around. But yeah, it's the same process. So if I go to demo site, here we go. So from a survey audit point of view, we've seen that you get a certain amount of surveys with the system, but every user also gets the survey audit builder. Now, we normally do training on how to send the surveys out. We don't normally provide training on, advanced training on building surveys, or we would, but we would probably charge people for doing so. Maybe 300 quid for a 2-hour training session on how to do it. Some people just get it and play around with it. So it's quite feasible that we might have people in that boat. And they've got two options. They can either create forms from scratch, or they can take a copy of the ones that we've loaded on and then edit them. So in the survey audit builder, it will list all of the current surveys, and you can just take a copy of the survey, and that builds a template with all of the content, but as a copy. So some people find that easier, because then some of the the work is already done in terms of the layout, and they just change the questions. If they prefer, they can create a survey from scratch. So I can just go create. So we could call this my mealtime survey. I've gone for meal times because it's something I understand, whereas if I'd gone for medication or something, I'd be in. So the survey builder allows you to create any sort of combination of forms. So I'm going to own it. You can personalize the survey, so you can have a logo. So we might put in the Quick Solutions logo, or any other sort of logo that you want to include. So let's say I want a fire alarm as my logo. There are options, quite advanced options, where you can apply scores to particular responses. So if there are 5 answers and they all score 4 points, you scored 20 out of 30 or something. So it can give you an overall percentage. So I generally don't cover that, as that's something that we would do in the training. But if people ask, could they do that? Then in principle, yes, they could.
Mm-hmm.
The content is what appears at the top of the survey. So here is my survey around the mealtime experience. And typically it's nice words like, please, would you kindly fill this in or something.
So this is what they'll see when they're asked to do it.
The title. So if you use the email function in the software to send out the request to fill in the survey, you can give that email a title and the email content as well, which in this case, I just borrow that and just use that again. And you can also, at the end of the survey, have a completion message. We'll respond back to you with any comments or whatever. So I'm starting to personalize that part, and then you get into the sections of the survey. So you can have multiple sections, or you can have it all in one. Sometimes by chunking it up into sections, you can have themes. Like in our surveys, we generally have 5 key questions: safe, effective, caring, responsive, and well led, and then we list questions under those so people can use them as evidence when they're putting their evidence together. In this case, let's say the dining room, we'll talk about do you like the layout or something?
Mm-hmm.
And then depending on what type of question you've got, there are all sorts of preloaded answers, or you can potentially define your own. So you can edit each answer depending on the type of question that you. And some have multiple answers, some have 1 or 2 answers, or you can have, there's a level of satisfaction in terms of layout. Depending on what you've asked, you can then have a follow-on question. What could be improved? And that could be a standard text area, and add one more question. Nice atmosphere to enjoy your dinner. So I'm just going to go with a agree level. So I've effectively made the building blocks of section 1. I'm just going to save that, and then section 2. Do you like the food? Yes, no, can't remember is a good one, because some people might have dementia.
Yeah.
And then maybe add another question. What is your favorite meal? And in this case, we're going to define the answers. So it's unlikely we'll have a preset set of options. So we could say chicken, and then we could have beef, and then we could have vegetarian, other. And we'll just save that. So I'm going to save all changes. I'm going to make the survey active. And now if we go back to the survey audit menu, they should be sitting in surveys, the mealtime survey, there it is.
Excellent.
So far, nobody's filled it in. I want to complete your mealtime survey. Now, I've made all the fields mandatory, which is why they're showing in red. I could have made them optional, which would then give people the option of not answering it. Do you like the food? No. What's your favorite? Vegetarian. I'm not a robot. Submit. You can send a copy to yourself if you wish when you filled in a survey. Some people like to do that for their records.
Sure.
And if I just add one more. This will be a real grumpy one. And we'll just go. So I've now got 2 survey responses. So you might employ a new chef. You might have new menu options. You might do a survey beforehand, you then do a survey afterwards, and you can show that things are improving because you've got a higher, better response to your surveys, so on. So we're already starting to build up statistics of what people's favorite meals would be.
Great.
So it's something you could play with. I'm happy for you to play around and maybe build a survey, but don't get too into it because you're sort of opening Pandora's box a little bit. People might look at this and go, "Oh, that's really good."
Sure.
But don't go any further than say what I've just done. Build a simple survey to give people a view on how it works. But I would say, we have specific training. So Angela is much better on this than I am. They can order a course to build their own surveys, or they can just play with the survey tool and see how far they get.
Perfect.
But
is there a limit of how many people can be invited to a survey?
Nope. So if you know their email addresses, you could click on here and you could copy 1,000 email addresses into there and it would send to everybody in one go.
Okay. And is there a way of seeing who hasn't completed a survey? So for example, I've invited 100 people and I've received 50%.
So in the surveys, it will record that it's been successfully delivered, but it won't record if they've opened it or filled it in. That's because surveys are sent to people who aren't known to the system beforehand. So you could be sending it to the public. You could be creating the QR code, if you remember. We can take the list and build a QR code, the link rather, build a QR code. We could put that on social media and get people to fill it in. So there's no way of knowing who you are and whether you've opened it or filled it in. However, that changes with the other forms. So the difference between the surveys and audits is that, well, there's two main differences. One is that the audits can be linked to standards. So in this case, we've got audits that are relevant for SAFE. So somebody has said when they built the audit, this is an audit that can be used as evidence against SAFE. And then within the evidence in the assurance, you can see all the responses to that particular audit when you're in SAFE. And the other thing that you can do with an audit that you can't do with a survey is you can direct it to a specific individual. So through the scheduler here, I can say, I'd like that document to be opened by this person. And once you do that and you assign it to a particular individual, you can do those things like see if they've opened it, see if they've completed it. So that functionality is there, but it isn't with the general public, because otherwise you'd be intruding into their world, if you like, and trying to record information about them that would be a GDPR problem. But with something like this, with a form, like an audit, then you could potentially allocate it to them, and you can set up a schedule so it automatically sends. So I could say I could call this the monthly schedule. I'm the owner, and I would then, like, from today, or from, say, the end of the month, every month starting from, or you can set a next run day. That's something different. That's adding something in after a specific number of days after the first one. In this case, we've got.
So,
Sorry,
Paul,
Michael.
just a quick one, because I'm following you, and I don't see the applied users. The only thing I've got is notification emails. I don't have the same list as you do. I've got a notification email where I can put the email address. Would you like me to share my screen with you so you can
Yes,
have a look
please.
what I
Let me
see?
have a quick look. That's because you're on a survey, not on the audit. So if you close that, go into audits, and just then open the audit.
Here you go. Oh, I'm so stupid. Sorry.
No, it's all right. Easily done. Very easily done. So in this scenario, let's say a care provider decided they were going to build a risk assessment, and they're going to check every month that the building is safe or something. They decide what the questions are, and then in order to ensure that it happens every month, I could say, right, Michael's going to be responsible for that, and the system will email you every month with a link to that particular audit. You click on the link, fill it in, and then it records all the responses going forwards. Now, this particular example, which is the monthly safety culture audit, is one that's used for the oversight dashboard, which I'll come on to. So that might well be one that is set up every month, and that way maybe the registered manager can be reminded every month to fill in that particular audit. And that leads us nicely on to these two. You've got the monthly safety culture audit, the full version, and the weekly one. You can see there's been lots of responses previously. So this is the aspect of the system around capturing key performance indicators, or KPIs. So the oversight dashboard is something that they would fill in, let's say this one, the monthly one, once a month with key information relating to their service. So if I was reporting for last month, say for June, you can see it's got detailed questions about their care plans, are they doing their risk assessments, and so on and so forth. So I've been here before. If you are adding information into a survey, into an audit in this case, you can save for later and it won't submit. Or if you're happy, make sure all the red fields are filled in. If you haven't filled in a red field, it won't let you submit the survey response. As you save each section, you'll see each section has a little red cross against it if it's not complete. So as you navigate through, you can see which bits you're happy with. When you're happy that you've done the whole thing, mark it all as complete, go to the end of the survey. No, it's an audit, sorry, the end of the audit, and submit. Again, you can send a copy to yourself if you wish at that point. So
Right.
if the manager gets into the hang of doing this every month, what we then do is take those responses, go to the home screen, and those additional tabs behind the first tab, which is the self-assessment, your evidence and your action plans, second tabs and so on. These statistics are using information gleaned from that audit. So
Great.
I've got the filter. So the answers I've just given for June, it's that one there. So I need to fill in some for February, March, April, and May. You might want to have a play and do one of those months, just fill it in, and it will start to fill in this graph. So what we're saying to the provider is, are there any big spikes in the numbers? Is there anything there that you might not have thought was a problem, but when you look at the numbers, you can see is potentially an issue? So why was there a big spike in this particular month in overdue care plan assessments? What have we done over the next couple of months? We've worked hard at it. We've got it right down. So it's an early warning mechanism, if you like, a bit of a health check for their service, and they can see where things are up to. So all of those tabs have numbers attached to them.
Can you refresh the page so we can have a look? Because I've just completed one for April.
Lovely.
You're such a good student, Michael, I tell you.
I'm trying.
I didn't even ask you, and you've done it just like that.
Oh, here we
There
go.
you are.
There we are. Perfect.
So
So
some
the
people.
more they fill in, sorry.
You go ahead, Rosie. Yeah.
The more they fill in, the more information. It's the same with evidence and action plans, isn't it? The more they fill in, the more information they're kind of going to get back.
That's right. I think the objections to this could be sometimes people say, well, I've got a care planning system like Nourish, might give you a lot of this sort of stuff. I don't want to do it twice. Well, that's fine. You don't have to use it. It's there. If it might be filling a gap, but if your care system already does it, then don't make extra work for yourself and do it twice.
Sure.
Or some people say, well, that question is not relevant to me. Just leave it blank. So it will just show as a 0 on here, but the information that is relevant, they can fill it in. So yes, it's giving them a sort of heads up on what the numbers look like, and then the other one.
Sorry,
again,
Paul, just to stay on this page, because again, I don't see those sections. Is it because I don't have access to directories? Because I'm on
no,
the.
You're not seeing the dashboard views.
No, let me just double check. No. So the only thing I've got is the site mode, and I've got the questions or sections 1 through 5, but I don't have the assurance. I don't have statistics, safeguarding.
Okay.
Shall I share my screen to show you?
No,
or you can log in.
I think I know why that might be. Let me just.
Is
that the same for you, Rosie?
No, but I've got them. But we had the same thing when we did our first session, and you did something to fit. We've tried a few things, and you've managed to fix it. But at the beginning, I didn't have it. But I have them now.
Okay, so I think it's a user setting, Michael. So I'm just going to play with your settings. I probably need to do this for Nige and for the
other guys as well.
Carla, Jamie, and Andy as well. Options, custom dashboards. I think that will fix it. So if
Okay,
you,
I'll turn login.
as soon as that's saved, yeah, just refresh and have a go.
Ah, here you go. Got it.
Okay, so yeah, Nigel's got it set up, but you haven't. I don't know whether I was having a bad day or something when I set you up, but I'll do that for the others as well. So yes, so that's what those dashboards are there for, and then you have the weekly one, which is less questions. So if you go to the survey audit menu again, select audits, and then under safe, you've got the weekly KPI audit. Press complete. So let's say I'm filling in for that particular week there. Fortunately, my browser's remembered previous answers, so that makes it easier filling it in next time. I just go from this list. But first time you fill it in, it won't have any numbers to go by. So I've just filled in the weekly one, and then under the home screen, the last tab is specifically for the weekly figures. Now we decided that because you'll be collecting information week by week, by the time you try and show everything between now and today, you end up
Again,
with
sorry, Paul. I've got completely different view. When I go onto weekly KPIs, I've got those questions week, what has the total hours, but I don't have the data against it.
I don't either, but is it because the start date and the end, it's our start date and end dates are different, I think. I've got the start date in as today, the end date, but Paul's got...
Okay, so start date, Michael, put in 1st of January this year, and then an end date of today, and that should fix it.
How do you... Once you've changed the start dates, you just press enter.
You press filter.
Oh, filter. That makes more sense.
Select the start date, then press filter.
Okay, yeah, I've got them now.
So I put the dates, and it was like still empty, but then yeah, I need to click filter. Okay, fine.
Yep, is that working for you?
Yep, got it.
Excellent. So we thought about creating charts and graphs, but there was just too much data for it to be meaningful. So we just went with a table so people can see for themselves what the numbers look like. The problem with trying to create graphs and charts, another issue, is the variability in the data. So you could get a very small care home that's got 100 hours, and then you could have a very large one which has got 3,000 hours. And then what scale do you then try and have a standard scale that shows both 3,000 and 100. The 100 would show as not even hardly registering. So there are a number of difficulties. So we just opted for the table. We don't seem to get anybody complaining about that. It does give them a clear view of what the numbers actually look like. Was that you, Michael, the first of the fourth?
Yes.
So it's calculated some of the figures for you, hasn't it? Because
it did, yeah.
The -6 is where it's working out the difference between how many staff you have and how many you needed for that period. But you get the idea. I mean, we just want to show people the functionality. It doesn't really matter that the data is a bit skew-if.
Sure.
But they can see the potential. And finally, we have this concept of an RFI. So the 3 different form types: surveys, audits, and RFIs, requests for information. So if we go to the survey audit builder, with an audit, here's an example of an audit, you have options to link the audit to specific quality statements. So I could say I'm going to link this audit to S1, S2, S3, or I'm going to make it something that's relevant for SAFE or any of the other key questions. So audits have that ability to be linked to a standard, whereas requests for information are just forms for pretty much anything else. So you might have an ad hoc, like our mealtime thing, where you can't link it to a particular standard. You don't necessarily want it to be. You just want a free form, free for all sort of form where I can build what I want, and it doesn't link it with the main standards. So it's just like a simplified version that you can use for any other things or things that you can't specifically nail down to a care requirement.
Okay. Kind of
so,
like the generic action plan.
yes,
option,
like
so it's like...
yeah, say exactly the same scenario, really. I mean, we use it for collecting statistics in some cases, which aren't relating to care, which aren't relating to a dashboard. So you can just use it to collect information that isn't linked to a standard like that. In the assurance menu, if you have an audit, it will show it. If you have a RFI, it won't show it. So here you are, view audits under SAFE. So this is going to list all of the audits that have been previously completed, and you can see the responses there. So that's how it's done it. It's created a link, and there's one here which is linked to S1. So again, we'll look at the history, and you can do things like give people the ability to complete the audit from here as well if they wish. Now, the safe, effective audits are like a really detailed dive into compliance for the key question as a whole. So under here, they have their policies. The references, I would treat with a pinch of salt because they are linked to the old Chloe's rather than the latest version of the quality statements. So as an exercise, we haven't gone through and cross-referenced everything, and in some cases they don't exist anymore. So we just thought we'd leave it as it was because there were people historically who've used them who quite like them.
Okay.
But if anybody asks and say, "Oh, does that link to those specific quality statements?" The honest answer is no, they don't. They link to the old Chloe's. So please, treat the questions independently. Don't try and draw the links to the specific quality statements.
Okay.
But it will still show in SAFE. So if you fill this survey in, sorry, it's an audit again. I keep getting my surveys and audits mixed up. If you fill it in, it will update in the in these views here.
Great.
So I've got some actions I think I need to give you guys access to the overview site so you can see that directorate view, see that review functionality. I need to check that the AST guys have all got access to the dashboards.
So I don't have access to directories, that's for sure, because I can see
Yeah.
only CQC there.
Yeah,
Okay.
same.
So if I go on here and we look at Michael. Yeah, so we'll give you tulip, poppy. What were the other ones called? Tulip, poppy, rose, and daisy. Nice.
Very spring.
Yeah. Rose is quite a popular one. We will give you all of those for all of those. Sorry, bear with me a second.
No worries.
And directorates. What's the directorate called? Citation Demo System Residential. Okay. Done that for you, Michael.
Okay.
Just saving, just bear with me a moment, and then I'll do the same for you, Rosie.
Thank you.
Try now.
Yep, got it.
Rose, daisy, tulip, poppy. One, two. And if you start putting evidence on any of those sites, that will make the directorate look a bit nicer. So feel free to log in to select the poppy, daisy, rose sites and have a go.
Sure.
And then citation demo and all options. So just give it a minute, Rosie. Yeah, that's now updated. So if you refresh, you should be able to see those sites.
I can.
And then if you go to the directorate, just go select the directorate and then you can see the overview.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you. So we just play around and fill in those sites.
Yeah, so you can just go in and start putting in some evidence on any one of those, poppy, rose or tulip.
Yep.
Right.
Or daisy even. And yeah, you'll see as you put the evidence in. So if I just I'll do one very quickly on daisy just to show the how that updates the dashboard. It will update it in real time. So as soon as the evidence is on there, the directorate view will change. So in fact, you might want to just go on. If you go on to tulip, Michael, and you do one on daisy, Rosie.
Sure.
Although you should do Rose, really, shouldn't you? The name like Rosie. And just do something on S1.
Come on, laptop. I'd still think, right, okay, I'm in Rose now. Mine's being really slow, but I think it's my laptop.
I think I've added one.
Hope I did one for. Just need to ragorate. Okay.
I did the tulip.
Okay.
I've done rose.
And there they are. Tulip and rose. Brilliant.
Perfect. Awesome.
Oh, you scored yourself orange, yellow.
Always room for improvement, Michael.
Oh, is it amber? Sorry. Yeah.
We listen to our teams. There you go.
could elaborate a little bit more, hence the amber.
But it just means that, as a quality team, you could maybe set an objective to all the care homes in the group. We'd like you to fill in your evidence in the next 2 weeks or something in SAFE, and then they can just see it as it happens and log in and see the evidence.
Right. Perfect.
Quite why mine is showing as a 0 there, I don't know, because there is one piece of evidence there.
Oh yeah. Strange.
I'll just take a little shot of that one and ask for some technical support on that.
Cool.
Okay. So I think that's pretty much all I can show you about the system, really. Continue to try it and play with it, and the next stage will be to find a tame prospect to do a demo to.
Yeah.
Or if you prefer, you could do a demo to the group. So if that's a less stressful way of doing it, maybe we
can. Yeah, I think we can start from between us. So each of us will do a demo, and then obviously we can give a little bit of a pointers to each other. And then once we feel comfortable, that we can roll that out to the clients. We still have a little bit of time just to make ourselves comfortable, because obviously we need to play with it. We need to start building our own content of the way we want to show the system.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a little bit of time would be perfect, and then we can play between each other.
Sure.
Well, we're going to set up that CQC Pro group as well. So there'll be 3 AST guys and Mick. Hopefully we'll get involved. And hopefully you can meet once a month just to share experience and pointers with each other and just help each other along, really.
Yeah.
But I think the more demos you do, the easier it becomes. If you just limit it to one a month or something, you won't remember what happened from the last time. But if you can do 1 or 2 a week, then suddenly it starts to really sink in.
Sure.
And
there's
nothing like when you get the feedback from the clients who say, "Oh, that's really good," and whatever, or they might direct you. They say, "Can you show me more about that?" So you'll become more confident, I think, once you start interacting with people through the demo. But let's call it a day there. I think that's the hour up, and the recording. Do you need me to share it again, Rosie, or can you do it from your end?
I think I might be able to do it on my end, but I'll let you know if there's a problem.
Because I could